Hi, this is Mikla Adams, and I'm recording this post for week 3, Market Equilibrium for EVSP201 Environmental Economics, Professor Ray Bartholomew. We're addressing the issue of market equilibrium, and I've gone ahead and kind of written a little script for that, and I will read it as is, so I'm not taking so much time. Equilibrium is about balance and stability. The word itself comes from the Latin for equal. We see this root in other words like equivalent, which is same amount, or equidistance, same distance. And the other part of the word, librium, comes from Libra for balance. You can see this in the astrological sign of the Libra, which is represented by a woman holding scales. In original usage, it denoted a well-balanced state of mind. In terms of economics, equilibrium refers to when there's parity between supply and demand, and the market is stable, where supply does not outstrip demand or demand does not outstrip supply. Now, a market at its core is a place to trade one item for another, from beads bartered for the island of Manhattan to $100+ for a barrel of oil. Markets can vary. A simple marketplace can be me offering a textbook for resale. The more sections of the class offered the following semester results in a higher number of students needing the book, increasing the demand. If I were the only person reselling the book, we'd have a disequilibrium, but when other students from my class also offer the book for resale, supply starts equaling to demand, resulting in our small market reaching an equilibrium. The more complex markets can be seen in the financial sector, where trades are made for all sorts of things, from basics like food and clothing to traded funds, which often include a multitude of companies in a particular sector, such as a tech stock that includes Apple and Google and Twitter and Samsung and all of these different types of technology-related items. There were many different environmental issues that I had a hard time focusing in on one, as they all seemed connected to each other, you can't speak about one without speaking about the other. Everything is so connected. I decided to focus on energy and wanted to talk about renewable resources, which the Natural Resources Defense Council separate into 7 distinct sources. According to NRDC, renewable energy comes from wind, solar, biomass, and cellulosic ethanol, biogas, geothermal, hydropower, and offshore wind, wave, and tidal energy. I'll put the link down below. But I think petroleum may offer a more robust example of an energy in the marketplace. The 2 dimensions of energy are critical to its input. As a power source, such as coal, the fuel of the Industrial Revolution, and a source of pollutions. Again, coal, the burning of which emits CO2, a greenhouse gas, and particulate matter that gets suspended in the air and becomes a noxious smog. See field page 194. If we go back to the 1970s, you see the price of oil was quadrupled due to manipulations by the Organization for Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC. It's an example of policy negatively impacting the market. Perhaps the governments of these countries could have intervened, making it against the law to influence the market in this way, because they are a monopoly, and monopolies in many places are illegal. But in this case, OPEC, they're not governed by those sorts of economic rules. However, there was already a strain on the oil markets as the energy demands of industrial nations increased at a breakneck pace due to the cheap cost of petroleum at the time. Oil prices were on the rise because the more energy being used, the more oil was being demanded, and so prices were going up. During the midst of this, President Nixon in the US, he removed the backing of the dollar by gold, which caused all sorts of market fluctuations. And then on the heels of that, OPEC restricted oil availability. And the reason they did that was due to the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Any nation siding with Israel was part of an embargo that did not receive oil shipments. And also, they increased the price of oil. Of the oil that they were shipping out. Market equilibrium was absent during this time period, especially as it related to oil. Demand far outstripped supply, and this state was artificially implied by the OPEC's actions. Discovery of new oil field in the northern reaches of Alaska and the North Sea meant that the actual oil supply available for pumping was enough to supply the ever-increasing needs of a rapidly industrializing world, which should have given us market equilibrium if it were not for the machinations of OPEC. And you can see that on page 198 of Field, and there's an actual little case study by some geologists that was really interesting. When those oils came to the market, the oil prices fell, creating an equilibrium. So as the fields in Alaska and the North Sea were, oil was extracted and sent to marketplace, things leveled out. And you'll see this with any type of situation where the supply suddenly is the amount that is being demanded. Going forward, as the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, increase their energy consumption, demand for oil and other fossil fuels will increase. Market equilibrium may be maintained for a time, as these nations may willingly pay whatever the going rate is for readily accessible conventional crude oil. And there's a difference between conventional crude and other types of oil. The market equilibrium may continue even as unconventional sources are extracted and processed. The heavy oils of the Venezuelan Orinoco belt sludge, which is more costly not only to process, but it presents a pollution hazard because of the heavy metal contamination as it's processed. And also the tar sands and shale deposits of the boreal forest in Canada and Russia are also monetarily and environmentally costly to extract and process. In case of the boreal forest, those forests are destroyed, never to be replaced. The soil down to several feet is removed to get to the tar sands, and then it's a more complicated process to get the oil out of that medium. As industrialization in the BRICS nations occur, their GDP is bound to rise, because they're producing more products and they're paying their citizens, and so now their citizens can afford more things, and this increases their GDP just from sheer the movement of the economic market. So their GDP is on track to increase, and they can now afford the higher cost of refined oil, refined from unconventional sources such as the heavy oils, tar sands, and shale. However, reliance on oil and other fossil fuels is not sustainable, as the amount of oil in the earth is finite. Geologists and other scientists vary about how much oil there is. As technology gets better, their estimation gets better. But the fact of the matter is, the oil will not last forever. Once it's extracted as an energy source, it's gone. It's not renewable unless we wait for millions of years for tropical vegetation to sink below the surface and gets changed into the different fossil fuels. At the rate we're denuding the earth, however, we may not have any type of vegetation to lay down and become fossil fuels millions of years from now. In order for the BRICS and the rest of the world to get on a path to sustainable development, they need to examine the 4 principles of economic renewal. The four principles of economic renewal is a path to sustainable development. The 4 principles are plug the leak, support existing businesses, encourage new local enterprise, and recruit compatible new businesses. You plug the leak by through import substitution, resource efficiency, buy local programs, and a stronger informal economy that seeks to put money back into the local community. Import substitution, instead of outsourcing, the community looks within to find suppliers in their midst for goods and services. In the area of energy, you'd find supplies within your country or region. So, for instance, Brazil would look to Venezuela for its energy resources because they're in the same continent. Much shorter distances to transport that oil, and because they're in the same region, they may be able to come to some agreement in terms of cost for the said oil that may be lower than what's available on the market. And resource efficiency can include installing more efficient appliances and weatherizing buildings and other infrastructure so that they use energy more efficiently. An example of a way to upgrade your infrastructure to be more efficient is of a way of it was not upgraded to be more efficient was in 2003. New York City got shut down. It had a blackout, and the blackout was a result of heavy AC usage during a very hot period in the summertime, and the grid could not handle the usage. And as we go forward in the US, one of the biggest things right now is the degradation of our infrastructure that's not being funded to be repaired and upgraded because our Congress is, well, our Congress. Buy local programs, identifying the needs in the community and generating a product in-house to address. Alternative energy programs that I saw in a Brazil jail was the inmates pedal for their freedom. The energy lights the river walk for the community, so increases safety and people can enjoy the riverside after hours. Prisoners get time shaved off their sentence and a healthier body. I'll post the article down below. It was in LA Times, but that I thought was a very innovative local program where the prisoners pedal, they generated electricity, the businesses along the river walk, they can also buy that electricity, but it was primarily to provide light source in that area. And that's something in-house in the economy. You don't have to outsource energy for that. Stronger informal economy includes the bartering of items for goods, such as in the Ithaca hours in upstate New York. In terms of energy uses, a small community may have something like a communal oven where everyone contributes to the energy source, purchasing it or providing it, and taking turns tending the oven, providing their time, and doing all their baking on the same day so the oven is lit once and everyone gets their baking done. And also the heat of the ovens could be used for other things like heating water that then generates steam to power other equipment. Going forward in the different principles, the second one is support existing business. Here's where the government policies would help by making it easier for local business to start community development corporations for mutual business support and development, and perhaps even economies of scale. In the energy field, this may mean business collaborating on how they can reduce their usage through energy efficient equipment, which their cooperative can then purchase at a volume discount or negotiating a more favorable rate with the energy provider. Number 3 is encourage new local enterprise. In the energy field, a local enterprise in the energy field will be building up a renewable energy source suitable to the local area, such as the wind farms you'd see in the desert in California and Nevada. And the fourth one is recruit compatible new businesses. A local enterprise may have the resources to set up the infrastructure for the wind farm, but they may not have the expertise to properly and efficiently operate it. So they liaise with a business outside of their local area that can provide that sort of expertise that, they know how to connect everything and they know how to run a wind farm. Whereas the local business may not have that expertise, but then they have maybe the resources available to build farms. So they provide that outside of their community. Again, they're providing it outside of their community, yes, but then they're being paid, and that money comes back to the community for them to spend in the community and to do other things in the community. These principles and actions can be implemented on different scales from the local community, small town or city, to the state level. On the state level, it may mean, a small town providing some type of goods and services that a city doesn't have, and then the city doing likewise for that small town or city. And it could even be translated into the national level, as here in the United States, or sometimes you can get something sustainable on an international level. Again, I'll post all the references I use down below, and hope this was informative.